Hey everybody, welcome to another oil change video. I know these are your favorite guys. Today we have a 2022. This is our Toyota RAV4 hybrid. It's got a 2.5 liter, 219 horsepower combined, Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder engine. It's making all sorts of interesting noises because we just turned it off. We're going to change the oil. One of the things that I recommend, it sounds a little old school, but once a new engine reaches 1,000 miles, yes, metallurgy has came a long way, and chances are there's not a ton of metal shavings or issues or things in the oil, contaminants. But I change the oil around 1,000 miles on a brand new car because Toyota calls, it says, hey, maintenance is free, but 10,000 miles is your first oil change. When you bring it in at 5,000 miles, the only thing they're going to do is rotate the tires, folks. So that's a long time for your first oil change. I don't care who you are, what your opinion is on it. Oil is cheap and engines are not. And yeah, it's a Toyota, and heck, I'm like Hank Hill. I change my oil often whenever, well, Hank Hill says I change my oil every 3,000 miles when I get bored. Well, that's kind of like me. It's kind of like me. So we are going to change the oil, and I'm going to start by showing you everything we need to make this job happen. All right, so stuff needed for the job. You're going to need 5 quarts of 0W16 oil, not 020, 016, pretty please. You're going to need 10mm socket to take off the little cover that's down there. You're going to need an oil filter. This is Fram, it's TG4967. They didn't have the fancier one. They had like a synthetic grade on the, like a spot for it on the shelf, but it wasn't there. I prefer to use Toyota branded ones, but I couldn't find out where I went either. You just have some shop towels to keep your hands pretty. I got a light to make the camera work better, and gloves, which I need to go find really quick before we start this job. Also, you may need an oil filter wrench, which I also have, not pictured. Is it rolling?
Yep.
All right, step 1, get it up on your ramps. Step 2, open your hood up. Step 3, I'm adding a bunch of steps just for fun. We're gonna take that off just so the air flows better when we start draining it out bottom side, top side. Gives a little airflow, like a little flow through, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're looking at passenger side here. Everything under here, especially because it's a hybrid, is just shielded, right? Better airflow, all that stuff. We're gonna use our 10mm socket wrench, and we're just taking off this panel here. It's basically just an access panel for you to be able to change the oil. All right, we got our 4 10mm bolts off. Boom, 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 boom. Look how clean she is. All right, and we've got our oil pan drain plug. And right here we've got our Toyota spin-on filter. Yeah, they did not have that number there. So this is the part number, the Toyota part number. Let me flip the camera around so we're at the right orientation. It's 90915-10009. One thing I forgot to mention, but I'll annotate in the beginning of the video, is you do need a 14mm wrench to get off the oil pan drain bolt. Another thing you should get is a crush washer. All right, first time oil change, here we go. Broke her loose, it was as tight as it should have been. Nice, nice.
Yep, nobody in a oil can has gotten to over tighten it.
That's some pretty clean oil right there, boys and girls.
Just how we like her.
Look at her go, Texas tea. Give you guys a little close-up view of that, honey. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, I had to get my gloves on.
So yeah, we get this stupid thing off here. It's fun.
It's still tight. That was an overly tight oil filter. Make sure you got your drain pan ready. We're gonna let this go relatively slow. I'm not just gonna pull this off for a couple reasons. We got a little bit of breeze going, but also the oil could go all over this little pan, and I'm trying to keep things kind of clean. It's already draining down the side of the oil pan. Has a little beveled edge here, and it's getting all over that. At least this is not a cartridge style filter. It is a spin-on filter.
Yay.
There we go, boys and girls. It is off, and I'm getting sprayed by oil because it's windy. All right, what we're gonna do is just clean up everything up here with a rag and make sure it's nice and clean before we get the new filter ready. All right, so to prep the filter, if it's a spin-on filter, which is mounted vertically like this, I will fill up the oil filter. This one's actually mounted horizontally, so if you fill this up and you know, like pre-charge it, pre-fill it, or whatever you want to call it, so you don't have a dry start, it's gonna get all over the place. So the only thing we're gonna concern ourselves with, of course, is rubbing a little bead of oil along the gasket. Speaking of gaskets, you want to make sure that the gasket came off with your old filter and didn't remain on the car. You don't want to double gasket these things. You will have a leak.
You don't want to double gasket anything. Remember what happened to our bathroom?
Oh yeah, those dorks.
Yeah.
All right, so here we have oil. We're gonna dip a clean finger in there just to get a little oil on here. This helps prevent leaks too by helping it seal up. And we just rub the oil around the filter.
Put oil in it.
A little filter
oil
ring.
from getting out. It makes sense in the end.
Recap this so we don't spill it.
Because we will.
We're gonna go back down there and we're gonna spin this on the filter. There's instructions that once the filter touches the base, the gasket touches the base, you're to turn it one turn after that. So you just kind of look at, you know, your landmarks here, whether it's a triangle that's filled or empty or whatever landmark you want to use, serial or part number, whatever, and don't over tighten these. It is such a freaking nightmare to get these things off. It's not going anywhere. It's not gonna leak. Chances are it's not gonna leak. You don't need to freaking do these tight. I would probably go about 3/4 of a turn. If you can easily get this to one turn, that's cool. But 3/4 of a turn, that's good also. All right, so we're just gonna line this up and put this new tasty filter.
Delicious.
It's delicious. It's oil flavored. Okay, we are about to touch gasket to base. Boom, we're at this label next to solid triangle. So tighten, tighten. It's at the top. It's about a half a turn now. Turn, turn. It's 3/4. Really tight, 3/4. That's hand tight. Don't need to do any more than that. Boom, done. We go top side. Okay, so optional right now, we could put that plastic cover back on there with our 10mm bolts and just put it back up there. I want to make sure the sucker doesn't leak before I go and put that back on there. But that's up to you. You can just put it all back and hope for the best and not check for leaks under there, because they will be all covered up if you put that cover back on. So that's up to you. But basically we're gonna go top side and we're gonna start adding oil here. So we're gonna go ahead and remove our cap. We got a nice clean funnel, which is way longer than it should be, than it needs to be. And we're gonna get our oil ready. All right, boys and girls, when changing the filter, what you should always do when you're doing an oil change, this bad boy should take 4.8 quarts. So I'm gonna put in about 4.5 quarts or so, and then back it down off my ramps so I can check it better with it not being, you know, up on car ramps. Okay. Here we go. We just add the oil to it. Super easy. 4.8 quarts. I'm going to do about 4.5, back it down, check it, and get it just right to 4.8 quarts, but when it's not on ramps.
Oh, it goes so fast because it's like water. Video. Okay.
Okay, so we got about 4.6 quarts in, is my guess. We're going to start it up, back it down off the ramps. I'm going to take it for a short drive because what you really should do is get this thing super close to where it needs to be. I guess like the proper way to check this thing, because it's a hybrid, should be that you drive it, you get that engine warmed up, you come back, you shut the engine off, and then you wait probably a minimum of a minute, minute and a half, but probably 2 to 4 minutes is a little better, and then you're going to check it at that point after you've ran it. So we're going to go ahead and run it, come back, check it. Not going to film any of that because basically this job is just done, folks. I hope this helped you out. I don't recommend changing your oil on these things every 10,000 miles. I really, really don't. You're gonna say, oh, but they included it, oh, it's 10,000. No. I would change this thing at the minimum at 5,000 miles. And then go to the dealer for their free 10,000 mile oil change. Then you do it at 15,000, then your dealer does it at 20, and you keep changing the oil every 5,000 miles on these. You know, can you go a little bit over? Yeah, you can go a little bit over, but I wouldn't go 10,000 miles. And on a brand new engine, just knowing what I know, I'm not gonna run this up to 5,000, especially not 10,000, when it's a brand new engine and everything's seated and everything's new, and you could have some little metal shavings or flakes in that filter just because it's a new engine. If it's gonna happen at any point in time, it's gonna happen in the first 1,000 miles. So I don't need that running through my engine until Toyota at 10K or somebody at 5K, no. So that's the reason why I do it at 1,000. I'm gonna get flack in the comments for it. Oil's cheap, whatever. Anyway, I hope to have some videos out on this thing doing fun things in the future, you know, getting good gas mileage, that kind of stuff, because that's kind of what these things do. Make sure you use that 0W16 oil. And even though I kind of scattered in the tools I used throughout the video, just kind of watch the whole video and make your own little list before you start if you need to make a list. All right, thanks for watching, y'all. Take care out there in YouTube land.